Welcome to My Money Movement, a guide to financial freedom. On today's episode, I discuss personal finances with my guest, Cole. And make sure you stay tuned to the end of this episode where I detail a action plan to get Cole out of debt and into the life he deserves. Cole, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Travis.
You're very welcome.
Happy to be here.
Tell me a little bit more about yourself, what you do for income right now.
I'm a web developer based out of here in Denver, Colorado. Been doing this for seven years or so. Really, in the past 2 years since the pandemic, really was in the midst of the pandemic did I really start taking the web development business more seriously. However, that started off going great, and it's still going pretty decently, but I've accrued a bunch of debts over, the past several years, and I often find myself comparing myself to other people in my field and with the same amount of experience doing the same things, and I find that they have a lot more financial freedom, and it just seems like they're doing better in the financial sense. So that's kind of what I do, in terms of my job.
Well, I'm glad you're here today, Cole.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So you're a web developer based here in Denver. You're an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
Yeah, you own your own business.
Right. I don't think of myself like that, but yeah, I should start probably thinking about it more like that. Taking my reins.
Man, I'm telling you right now, when I look through your financial situation, not only are you ahead of the average person, but you own your own business, which a lot of people wish they did.
Yeah.
And you run a profitable business. And you have much less debt than the national average, which we're going to go through in a little bit. And you have more money in your savings than the average person. So I'm going to start off right now and just let's clear the air. Don't compare yourself to other people.
Okay.
Because you are more successful than you are portraying yourself. And if you take anything away from today, I want you to leave feeling really excited about your business journey. Because when I look through your finances, like, this guy has all the potential to build the life that he wants, but there are definitely some areas in your life that you need to be really critical about.
Yeah.
And we'll go through those in a little bit. But I appreciate you kind of sharing that. So what are some of the clients you're currently doing work with right now?
Yeah, so most of my clients are usually construction companies in the area, contractors, or other small businesses. For example, I've done actually some websites for some hair salons, for example, which is kind of like an outlier industry for me, but that's just where I've wound up. Most of this year I was actually working with like an insurance company doing like in-app testing for them, which was, it was all right. But yeah,
sure,
we've moved on. That's the in a perfect world, I get like a mid-sized construction company and I build them a nice web app and it's got all the bells and whistles. Like, that's the perfect client to me.
Wonderful. And what do you usually charge for that type of work?
Yeah, that's a great question because it's a really variable range and it really depends on the needs of the clients. I get this pretty much every person who calls me asks me this question and they'll be like, well, what's like the cheapest you can do for me is usually like, that's a very common question.
It's a loaded question too.
Yeah, it's a very loaded question. Yeah, I hate it, but it's business. So usually I'll tell those people typically my websites start around $500. And that's just like a kind of like a basic website, like an online brochure, if you will. I think the most I've sold a site for was around $6.
Congratulations.
And I'd really like to get those numbers up because the bigger clients, how you make money in the business. So.
For sure. And one of the things I want to detail out in your plan later on in the episode is going to be how can we acquire higher ticket clients so you're using your time effectively and building your business in a really efficient way. So we'll talk more on that, but I appreciate you sharing that. It gives me a really good understanding of kind of how you're building your business. It seems like you are very customer facing. It may be a lot of cold calling. Is that correct? And how you're acquiring clients?
I do a lot of cold calling. For example, after this interview, I'm probably going to walk around the neighborhood and put up ads and stuff because it's a kind of walkable area.
That's awesome.
And probably go into some businesses and see what they have going on, Yeah, so a lot of customer-facing stuff.
Man, I love that energy. I love that tenacity. If you are willing to do cold calling and knock on doors, you can do anything. That's one of the most difficult and most challenging sales cycles. If you make one sale for every 30 cold calls, every cold call you make, you're just 1/30th of the way to the next sale.
Yeah.
So it's a numbers game, but I'm excited for you. But let's get into the the portion of the segment that is kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah.
How much debt do you have, Cole?
Yeah, that's a good question. Just off the top of my head, I don't know like the exact number. But I believe I know. Yeah, I have around it's $3,000 to $4,000 in debt right now. Oh, sorry.
You have more than that, Cole.
Oh, yeah.
And that's okay.
No, I forgot about the student loans there. Yeah, I was just thinking, so no, it's more around 10K to 11, I believe.
Yeah, so it is just under $10,000.
Oh, okay. Oh, that actually makes me feel a little bit better.
It's not that bad.
Yeah.
10K in today's world is a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
And for someone like you, we did forget to kind of cover your total income. Yeah. But we had talked, you're making between $50,000 and $60,000 as a solo entrepreneur, and you have $10,000 in debt. That's nothing.
Yeah, all right.
That's great.
That makes me feel good hearing you say that.
You should feel good about that because it on paper is daunting. And how long have you had this debt?
Well, yeah, since around 2012, because that's when I was done with school. That's when it really started. And then recently, it's all the medical stuff, which is what really stresses me out. Yeah. And that started about 2 years ago.
I can't imagine what it feels like going to sleep every night for the last 10 years, having this debt kind of looming over you.
Yeah. Oh, to be honest, it's kind of like a repressed memory. It's like that, it's one of those things out of sight, out of mind. That's kind of how I've treated it, and which is not like, I recognize that is not how I should be handling my debt. It's not productive.
And Cole, you are like many other people who have been in that same chair. That's the easiest way to handle something that's difficult.
Yeah.
The hardest thing to do is to take it head on, which you're doing today. You've taken the first step. I'm thrilled that you're here today because this is so attainable for you to get out of, and you can get out of it as quick as you want to.
Yeah.
With your income level and the lifestyle that you have, this is so attainable, and I just really want you to emphasize that internally.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I teach is you have to know your numbers. You have to, in ideal world, you're reviewing this monthly so that you are attacking your debt and you know it. So the next time I see you, I want you to know how much debt you have left. Because the first actionable step is just understanding what's there.
Yeah. No.
And taking ownership of it and no longer being afraid of it. Can you do that?
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's honestly, I 200% can do it. It's something I feel I've just been pushing off for too long now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, that's such an easy thing to fall into. And what's exciting for you is you've had this debt for 10 years, but taking this step today, I'm confident you could be out of this debt as soon as 6 months.
Yeah.
If you wanted to. So the total debts, you mentioned you have student loan debts, which is about $7,500. You have a pretty high interest rate on that. And that's pretty common for that type of institution to have kind of a private loan where it's 6.8%, I think is what you said.
Yeah.
Which is high.
It's 6.8. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I injured myself in 2012. And I had to defer the loan several times because I was unable to make the payments. And that's why it used to be, I think, at 3 or 4%, but it's gone up to 6.8.
Sure.
Yeah, to explain that.
Yeah, and I appreciate you explaining that because 10 years is a long time.
Yeah.
Coming up on 11 years, let's get this paid.
Right, I agree.
You have so many ideas, and we're going to talk about your goals next. It's a drop in the bucket that's just hindering your ability to do more things.
Yeah.
So let's attack that one. And then the medical debt, you have almost $2,000 in medical debt that were unforeseen costs. You're in a much better financial position where you have a savings account that can buffer you if you had another medical emergency.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering what your thought process is on the medical debt, which is $2,000, and then there was just one other debt, which was from your credit card for the vet.
Yeah.
And just kind of why we're letting these debts sit.
That's a good question. Because I do have some money in my savings. And I could just allocate that and pay it forward. But it's just something that I'm very afraid of. Where if I do have another emergency, I need that money there for that, for whatever that reason emergency would be, and hopefully it doesn't happen. But that's why I have that there. And I've just been trying to slowly pay off all of the medical and the vet, for example. I don't accrue interest on that for another 2 months, I believe. So I've just been trying to slowly chip away at all of these things before the interest is there. So I'm paying off less, and then I still have that buffer money, if all of that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. And I'm glad you're thinking about it that way. That's the reason why I asked. You should try to retain that buffer as long as possible.
Yeah.
And the plan that I have built out for you is going to include increasing that buffer. So that was kind of a loaded question. I'm glad you answered it that way, because it's an easy thing to do, because you could put yourself in a situation where you end up in a deeper hole if you end up kind of losing your savings.
Right, exactly. And that's it's one of my biggest fears, honestly.
Wonderful. Well, not wonderful that that's your biggest fear, but it's great. It's great you're thinking about it. So what are some of your investments?
Yeah, some of my investments.
Yeah.
So I have a mutual fund, and then I have some money in Bitcoin or in some cryptocurrencies.
Great.
Which that was just like, I don't know, I kind of fell into the hype, and I mean, I'm a programmer, so I learned a lot about that stuff, and well, obviously a lot of things have happened in the past 6 months, I think, or maybe the year it's even now, where everything's falling apart in that world. So I don't know if that was a wise investment, but I have some there. But my mutual fund, I feel, was a solid investment.
It's all about risk, right? Yeah. There's a potential to make a crazy amount of money in crypto, but there's a high risk potential that you may lose it all, which is what I did.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's what we all did, honestly. Yeah. Well, some of us got lucky, I guess.
Yeah. And it is about kind of leveraging where you think the market's going to go. So don't beat yourself up for making a bad investment. Just learn from it and try not to repeat it.
Yeah. No, I don't beat myself up for the crypto or anything, because I was following the advice of people, that line of advice where it's like, don't invest money that you wouldn't just spend on the weekend or something. So that's what it was. It was just, okay, I'll put $50 onto Bitcoin today or whatever, because I'm not going on this Saturday, because I'm not going out tonight. It's my night out or whatever, Yeah. So I'm not too worried about that. And maybe it'll even bounce back one day. I'm just kind of letting it all sit there.
It very well might. I mean, I personally think Bitcoin's the most viable option. So if I'm going to put any money into crypto, that's probably the place I'm going to look first.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of volatility. There's been a lot of scams with that market, but there are also countries adopting it as their currency, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So there is potential for it. I would like to see you in a situation where you pay off your debts, and then you can leverage the additional money you're earning to make some investments like that.
Yeah.
And they're not going to impact you the same way they would today.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah. No, I would love to invest do more investing, It's just in the forefront of my mind. It's always the medical debt. Like, that's always what's on the forefront of my mind. And now it's the student loans, because that's being reinstated. The pandemic kind of pushed that away, and it kind of made me forget about that and stuff. But now I just, earlier this month I paid the government, for example, and it's like, oh yeah, now I have to start doing that again. And that's, I don't know, it's on the sheet there, but it's like, whatever that number is, you got to start paying that every month now.
Yeah. And again, that just comes down to knowing your numbers. You should understand how much the minimum payments are on these debts.
Yeah.
And build that into your budget. So you have, just overarching, we have almost $10,000 in debt. We have $3,000 in savings. We have $3,000 in investments. And then your fixed expenses are super low. Your total fixed expenses are approximately $1,075 a month.
Yeah.
You have really low rent, considering you live in Denver.
Yeah, I know.
$775.
Yeah. It has its downsides, though.
Sure. Do you have roommates?
Yep.
Yeah. That's okay.
Yeah, right. No, but yeah, it's my rent is like 50% less than, most of my friends, for example.
Yeah.
That's the cheapest I've ever found an apartment that's decent is $1,400.
Dude, the average rent downtown is almost $2,000.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Which is crazy.
It's insane.
It's totally insane. But what I like about that is your living expenses are already pretty low. Your fixed expenses. Where I see a big opportunity for you is with your variable expenses, because you sent me your spending history and there were definitely some things in there that I wanted to help you realize. And I'm going to ask you a question. When's the last time you've sat down and done a budget?
I haven't done a budget plan, so at least 2.5 years now.
Well, as important as knowing your numbers with all of your debts involved, which we've just accomplished, it is so critical to do a monthly budget if you are going to actively and aggressively pay off your debt. Because if we don't know where our money's going, we can't actively make changes. And then 2, it helps you set up goals for the month, which you can refer back to. Something that I like to do is anytime I feel like I'm about to make an impulse purchase, which I've seen a few of them that I want to talk to you about in your spending history, I remind myself, I take a minute, I count to 3, and I ask myself, does this fit into my financial goals for the month? If it does, it's an easier purchase to make.
Yeah.
If it's not in my budget, if it doesn't fit my financial goals, is it then something that I can write down and look at budgeting for next month?
Yeah.
Or is there a way that I can get it cheaper that does fit in my budget?
Yeah.
And it's just having those internal conversations repeatedly that literally the first month it's going to feel weird, the second month it's going to feel weird, but by 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, it's a habit and you're on your way. So I want you to really think about that.
Yeah.
So let's go through your spending history. And one thing I want to mention is if you've gotten to this point in the video, please hit the subscribe button, because I don't want you to miss out on any of the financial information that I'm covering in this series. Specifically right now, we're covering budgeting. And if you're subscribed and you go to mymoneymovement.com, there's a free budget resource which you can print out. And Cole and I are going to talk about right now. So I'll send you the link to that. Essentially, it's a free budget planner that you can print off, and you can write your goals on the top. You can write down your fixed expenses, your variable expenses, and then it's something that you can hold yourself accountable to.
Yeah, no, perfect.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's a great resource. It's the one that I use and kind of built out. For the viewers at home, we're looking at Cole's spending history, and we're going to go through an exercise. And what I want you to do, Cole, is I want you to take these highlighters and really, really quickly go line by line, and I want you to mark in yellow the expenses that you would say are essential. I had to spend this money on these things, and I want you to just go gut reaction as quickly as possible.
All right.
Yeah, this is great. So do you mind if I just show the camera this real quick?
Oh, yeah. Go right
cool.
ahead.
So what Cole and I just did is we highlighted in yellow all of the expenses that were essential. And this is a great exercise to visually start showing yourself where your essential spending is. And then next, we're going to do non-essential in pink. So if I show the camera these, you see there are just a handful of items that are essential. And that's what looks to be red. There's some groceries and the payments to the vet. That sound about right?
Yep.
Cool. So now I want you to really quickly go through these same 2 pages, and in pink, mark down anything that may have been non-essential. And while Cole is working through that, I just want to let you know at home, there are several articles on mymoneymovement.com outlining this process, which includes this visual representation of your spending habits. It is a great exercise, especially as you're starting out to build a budget, to make yourself aware of the areas that you're spending money. And it's really important that you take a third-party perspective and be as critical as you can. Imagine this is someone else's budget that you are doing for them, and take your emotions out of the equation and just be really critical with where you're spending money. As you might notice, Cole, it's a very helpful visualization, because if we look at the areas in pink versus the areas in yellow, there's a lot more pink. Lots more pink. And it is a very helpful exercise. It's really quick to do, but it helps us be really critical in understanding
maybe there are some areas where we're overspending because you have a great income, you have really low cost of living, and yet you're currently unable to save money.
Yeah.
By looking at this 1 month, there are a lot of areas where potentially you're overspending. And I took my third-party perspective. Again, this is just mine, but this is the version that I did. Yours looks really similar. So I congratulate you for being critical on yourself. There are a few things I wanted to talk about that really stood out to me. So when we're building a budget, it's important that we outline kind of key buckets. And what I noticed is you have 3 areas. You have your fixed expenses, which are your rent, utilities. You have entertainment. You have convenience stores. And then you have food. How much money do you think you spent in the last 2 months on entertainment?
I really honestly don't know. I'm the guy. You know, but ballpark number off the top of my head, I'm going to go with around $300 to $400 probably.
Okay. I will preface that entertainment for me includes a handful of things that you may not view as entertainment, which I realize you don't own a car, correct?
I do. It's off the road though. So
okay, yeah, because you take a lot of Ubers and you use public transit, which is a great way to save money. But I lumped that in for entertainment just for the sole fact that you do work from home, and when you are taking those activities, you don't have to use an Uber to get there. So I did include that, but it's Ubers, and then you had a ton of ATM with a lot of ATM fees, and I have a feeling I know where that money's going. So I lumped that in entertainment, as well as you had 3 major purchases from Cabela's, Bass Pro Shop, and Wilderness Exchange. And then you also had flight. And all of those entertainment costs were a total of $1,693.
Yeah.
So again, entertainment is just kind of a broad term here, but it's a bucket that I wanted to talk about because it's where you spend the majority of your money. And in the last 2 months, you spent more than your entire medical debt.
Yeah. Okay.
Just in that one area.
That flight, though, was not entertainment. I had to fly back to the East Coast for a funeral. So
I'm so sorry. That's okay.
No, it's completely okay. But that's just why I wanted to just state that because I would not have just flown. You want to see that unless there had been a family, situation.
Yep. And I want you to know this whole conversation, there's no judgment involved. Yeah. I'm just outlining a few key areas. So even with the flight and the Ubers, there is still $1,000 that is going into this area.
Yeah.
And I just want you to recognize it. And then 2, convenience stores. You visited a lot of convenience stores.
Yeah, I'm from New York. I like the bodegas.
Yeah. I can tell, man. And you love the delis.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
And part of that is just going to be deciding how much you want to budget every month so that you can take advantage of that, because you do have a healthy income.
Yeah.
And you can take advantage of that. It's just kind of an absorbent cost because in the last 2 months, you had all of these little $1, $2, $5, $10, and it totaled $330.
Yeah, that's
because it's in the moment. It's like, oh, that's $2.
No, I know.
$2,
and I completely agree with you, Travis. Instead of making a cup of coffee, let's just go walk up to Speedway, and just get a cup of coffee and a Reese's bar or whatever, And
honestly, some of that, when I was looking through it, seemed like it might be kind of a habit for you. You wake up, to your point, I'm getting out of bed. Let's go for a little walk. We go to the convenience store, get our cup of coffee, get our candy bar or a granola bar, and then we head home. And I really want you to recognize that because that's a big amount of money.
Yeah.
That's just going to these convenience store trips that you could potentially cut out of your life or budget a reasonable amount of money so that you still can enjoy that weekly, but it's not every day. And then the last bucket I wanted to talk about was food.
Yeah.
Do you like to cook for yourself, Cole?
I love to cook for myself.
I love that you said that.
Yeah.
Because you spent $969 on food, and of that, $132 was at King Soopers, $704 was eating out at restaurants, $38 was your vending machines, and then $95 was from DoorDash.
Oh, really? Only 95 was from DoorDash. All right, that makes me feel...
Only 95 in the last month or 2 months?
Yeah, it makes me feel a little bit better about the DoorDash. But the restaurant costs, I'm like, oh, yeah, man, that kind of adds up in my brain. I like to go out,
it adds up so fast. And again, I'm not telling you to cut all of these expenses down to zero, but if you're not budgeting monthly and giving yourself an allocation of money that you can spend eating out, you're just going to end up spending more than you realized. And it's an easy pitfall that people fall into. I would like to see a higher amount of allocated money to your groceries.
Yeah.
Because $132 in 2 months is not very much groceries.
Yeah.
And $700 at the grocery store goes a really long ways. So I think this could be an area where you do save money. And then I did want to ask you about the vending machine. Is that in your complex? Is it nearby? Or
the vending machine was at my my last client. I had to go into their offices to work on their systems, onto their desktops and stuff. So I was at their location all the time, and they had a vending machine. So that's why you see all the vending machine charts, because I don't drive. And so it was, well, they have a vending machine, and it just ties into my bodega habit where it's, I'm going to go get my granola bar, whatever the kind bars they had in the machine, whatever.
Yeah. And that's an easy thing to kind of fall into.
Yeah.
And it's going to involve a little bit of pre-planning, because as you continue to build your business, you're going to continue to have less time. So you need to be a little bit more thoughtful and potentially planning a lunch, packing a lunch.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you love to cook, making a larger amount of food at one time and then freezing smaller portions so that you can quickly throw that in your lunch. You can microwave it, or if you have to, you can just eat it on the fly. But that is an area that you could cut out $40 really quickly. And then I already know the DoorDash, same thing, just convenience.
Yep.
And that's normal. But the average meal cost on DoorDash is 30 to 40% higher because of all the fees than if you just made a meal at home, or if you even just walked to the restaurant if it was nearby and got it to go.
Yeah, no, DoorDash is the worst. I try and avoid it at all costs, but a lot of these costs, explain them, is this last client I've had, I would have to travel, and they're doing construction on the train. So the train has been just, this whole time I was working with this client, it was just absolutely so miserable. It would take me an hour to an hour and a half just to get to the location. And then, so it was basically, I was losing almost 2 to 3 hours every single day. And that's time that, when you're taking care of a dog and you're doing a million other things, and then you're also still trying to run your business and stuff while also satisfying the needs of your client. It was very demanding. And that's why you just fall into the trap of being, okay, I'm just going to DoorDash tonight, or I'm just going to go walk to Carboncitos and get some tacos and whatnot. That's why I just, you fall out of the habit of making a nice rice and chicken bowl and freezing that, so you have meals all week and stuff. This is kind of a little bit of my excuse, if you will, of all of that.
And I appreciate the insight, Cole, because just from hearing that, you are more driven than I would say half the people that live in Denver. Because you're willing to give up hours to ride a train to just get to your clients to service them. And the way that you talk about your business, it's so uplifting and it's so positive. And man, I'm just thrilled for you to continue to focus on that. And I'm excited to see where it goes in the next year.
Yeah.
Because you have a great mindset. You're not telling yourself negative aspects, because a lot of people would think that that's just a huge barrier and they wouldn't even be willing to do it. So I want to acknowledge that and give you a kudos for being willing to take that time to ride public transit.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah, it was tough, but yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that.
Yes. And I don't want to beat you up too bad, because your total expenses, they're not that high.
Yeah.
But there are areas where you could lower your expenses to put money towards your savings. And I do want to ask you a question, which is, how much time do you work?
Most of this year I've been working on average around 40 to maybe some weeks I've been working closer to 50 hours a week, but I've been trying to keep it around 40 hours every week. That's because I've had a pretty big client where it's been a normal sort of 9 to 5 sort of thing. But now that I'm kind of back to doing my more of my freelancing sort of stuff, it's anywhere from 30 to 60, 70 hours freelancing. This is the thing I like to say about freelancing. When it rains, it pours, and when the sun shines, it shines, So if you can go make that money, you got to just go and get it while it's there. So
do you feel like you have a balance with free time right now?
Yeah, I do, actually. I have more of a balance now that I'm working remotely again versus working on location at that client. Yeah.
If you're watching at home and you want to find out more information on how to use a budget, go to www.mymoneymovement.com. There's a free budget planning resource that you can print off, fill it out every month. Cole, that's what I'm going to recommend for you to start doing.
No, I'm excited to go check it out and fill it out for myself.
Yeah, it's really simple. If you have any questions, please give me a shout. I would love to talk you through that in more detail.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So overall, I think I know the answer to this question, but are you willing to sacrifice for financial freedom?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
And I think it's something I kind of need to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you say that. You're just non-hesitant, right?
Yeah.
You have a great head on your shoulders. You have a business that's, in my opinion, thriving. It's doing well. You're going to get out of this. And how quickly you get out of it is going to be determined by you, because there are the two quickest ways to get out of debt. Either we lower our living expenses or we increase our income. Best of all, we do both. And the plan starts with, so number one for your plan, Cole, cut unnecessary spending. I don't think that comes as a shock after kind of going through your budget.
Oh, yeah.
But my goal for you is stop eating out, start cooking for yourself again, because you spent $704 eating out and only $132 on groceries the last 2 months.
Yeah, no, that's pretty bad.
I think for a single person, I budget $100 a week for food.
Mm-hmm.
That could be eating out. That could be groceries. That gets you a long ways as a single person with groceries.
Yeah.
It doesn't get you very far if you're eating out.
Right.
I think that's an attainable budget goal for food. And then your biggest opportunity is going to be with what I kind of lump together as entertainment costs. The flight aside, the Uber rides aside, you're still spending about $1,000 on things that may not be essential in your life, but they probably are adding value. So I don't want to discount that, but I do want you to be really critical when you get home today or tomorrow or when you have time to sit down and just really look at where you've spent your money, because there were some big purchases, Bass Pro Shops, Cabela's, Wilderness Exchange.
Yeah.
Can I ask you what they were?
Yeah, no, by all means. So the Wilderness Exchange purchase, maybe I should have marked it as essential because it was for a raincoat.
Okay.
I feel like in Denver, that's kind of, I didn't have one. I lost it. So
Sure.
Needed that one.
Raincoat.
But Bass Pro Shops, drum roll, it was fishing supplies
Cool.
that I already have enough of. Didn't need to spend that. I was just in the store and excited.
Okay.
And then
Cabela's?
Cabela's is the same exact thing as Bass Pro Shops. My buddy hit me up and was like, hey, I'm going to Cabela's. And I'm like, oh, yeah, come and pick
Hard
me
to
up.
pass that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's great you're recognizing this. My advice to you is budget yourself. If you have a hobby that you love to do, put an allocation in your budget so that when you are making these purchases, it's part of your plan. You don't have to wonder if it's going to set you back financially, and you get to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And the other piece of advice on that is utilize Facebook Marketplace. I use that all the time. I also utilize Goodwill. If you needed a raincoat, you probably could have found one at one of those resources at a much lower cost.
Well, I might actually. I think at Wilderness Exchange, it basically is like Goodwill, but for outdoor. Because I spent that raincoat was $20. Like I believe is what I spent on it.
No, it was $219.
Oh. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm realizing I thought I spent $20 on that. So this is just oh yeah, no, that's very. I see. Sorry for the discrepancy.
That's all right.
I was just confused.
I'm glad that we're having this conversation because if we're not reviewing our spending habits every month, it's easy to accidentally think we spent 20, but it was actually 200.
Yeah, no, I think I got ripped off because it was a used jacket. The zipper's kind of busted and stuff. It's not a new jacket.
I don't think you got ripped off, but Wilderness Exchange does take a markup on all of their items, and it is not as cheap as Facebook Marketplace or Goodwill. Their stuff is a higher quality. They do testing on it, so it should hold up for you. But that's just one recommendation.
Yeah.
I'm glad we kind of had that epiphany.
No, I'm calling them after this.
Yeah, look it up. Check your receipt.
Yeah.
Because it could be a situation where the teller accidentally added a 2 at the front. That happens.
Right.
Because it was 200 in 1996.
Yeah.
So if you thought it was 1996, that happens.
Yeah.
But if we're not reviewing our spending habits every month, we wouldn't catch that.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we found that one.
Yeah, no, thank you for pointing that out to me.
You're welcome. It's kind of crazy. It was almost $1,000 if you add all that together.
Yeah, that's a lot right there. That's so much.
That's your entire veterinary debt.
Yeah.
That is over half of your medical expenses.
Yeah.
And that is 1/8 of your student loan debt.
Right. Yeah.
In 2 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's that easy.
Yeah. No, it is really that easy.
And I'm not asking you to give up your life. I was asking
Yeah.
you to maybe buy things secondhand and budget for it.
No, yeah, and I usually try and buy. That's why I went to Wilderness Exchange, was because I didn't want to go to REI, for example. And I'm of that same mindset where if you can get it used from Marketplace. Like my bikes and stuff, I always buy them from Marketplace. But
Wonderful.
so it's such a wrench in my life, everything, which is a good thing, I guess, to realize that cost me $200 and not $20,
Revisit it, follow up,
Yeah, yeah.
because that's, $200. But at the end of the day,
It's so alarming to me, yeah.
what I call that when I have that happen to me is I call it stupid tax.
Yeah, all right. That's a great way to put it, yeah.
And it's not meant to be something that's hurtful, but it's meant to be something that we learn from.
Yeah.
Because I've paid a lot of stupid tax because I didn't pay attention or I accidentally did something that I wasn't planning for that cost me financially. And it's a kind of a fun way to laugh at yourself and then move forward.
Yeah,
So the Wilderness Exchange jacket,
yeah.
we paid a small fee of $200 towards the stupid tax, but we are going to learn from it and you're not going to make that mistake.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And hopefully you can call them and get that $200.
Yeah, we'll see.
That's the number one, cut unnecessary expenses. I think there's an opportunity to save $500 a month right there. Number 2, increase your earning power in income, which you're already doing. It's going to involve cold calling and finding clients that are high ticket versus a high number of low ticket.
Yeah.
And we don't have a lot of time to dive into that today, but you already mentioned you're doing cold calling, which is the quickest way to find new clients. I did look, and there are a lot of part-time contractor positions in Denver, 50 plus to 100 that came up quickly on Google. That could be another resource for you to kind of streamline your cold calling, whereas you're not getting individual businesses, but you could be a part-time contractor at multiple companies, get paid between, the average salary was $40 to $60 an hour.
Yeah.
I don't know the scope of the work, but that could be another avenue for you to quickly just throw your resume, your portfolio out there and get some quick clients.
Yeah.
Because you do have some free time. Right. And I don't want you to give up all your free time, but if you're working 40 to 50 hours a week and you have debt, there's 112 hours every week, if you sleep 8 hours, that you could be potentially working. Mm-hmm. And to get you out of debt, again, there's 2 ways. Either we lower our cost of living or we increase our income. Ideally, we do both.
Yeah.
So if you can utilize some of those hours that are free hours right now,
Yeah.
because there's upwards of 50 of them. I'm not asking you to give up 50. Even if you just gave up an extra 10 or 20 hours right now, that's going to pay huge dividends, because the quicker you get out of debt, the quicker you start building your emergency fund, and the quicker you start piling money into your investments. And that's where I want to see you.
Yeah.
I want to see you get there quickly. Number 3, the debt payoff model. So we have just 5 to 10 minutes to go through this portion. Have you heard of the snowball method?
No, I have not.
The snowball method is you pay off the smallest debt first while paying the minimum payment on all other debts. And then once that's paid off, you roll all of that money. Don't worry, Cole, I'm going to give you this plan.
Oh,
This
okay.
is for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you roll all of that same amount of money into the next biggest. So after you pay off that $500 vet bill, you don't just continue to pay the minimum payment. You bump all of that money you were paying into the next one.
Yeah.
So in theory, as this debt snowball gets rolled, as you start paying off your debts, it gets bigger and bigger, so that when you get to that final debt, it's a huge lump sum and you pay it off faster. Because if you pay the minimum payment, this is going to take another 10 years.
Yeah.
But
No, it is.
with your current lifestyle, if we mitigate some of the things where we're spending money and you're able to increase your income, dude, you can be out of this so quick.
Yeah.
10 grand.
Yeah.
So that's the snowball method. There's another method, which I call interest rate method, which involves paying off the highest interest rate first, because that is costing you more money, which would be the student loans, because it's 6.8%. And then your vet bills were 6.4 or something like that. And then the medical debt in Denver, it's capped at 3%. So that's the lowest interest rate. So that should not be keeping you up at night.
Yeah.
But what you'll do with the interest rate method is pay off the highest interest rate first. Same method. You're going to put as much money into that as you possibly can every month. And then once that's paid off in full, take all of the money you're putting into that and do it into the second highest interest rate, which for you, man, this can be quick.
Yeah.
And then you continue to do that until all debts are paid off. Yeah. So they're very similar methods. And for you, I personally like the snowball method because it triggers a reward for paying off the debt. And you kind of get that good feeling that comes along with eliminating an entire debt.
Yeah.
And you only have 3 small sums to pay off. So if I were in your situation, and part of knowing your numbers is just knowing how much interest you're paying every year.
Yeah.
So right now, that's $7,500 of student loans. You're paying $510 of interest.
Yeah.
Your medical debt's about $45 a year. And then the credit card for the vet bill, assuming we don't pay it off in the next 30 to 60 days, it's $30 a year.
Yeah.
So your total interest, if you don't pay this off, is $585 a year.
Yeah.
It's just going to interest.
Yep.
And I don't want that for you. So the sooner we can start planning for this, the quicker you're going to pay it off.
Yeah.
And again, so if we're paying off this debt, I think you could do this $500 in a week.
Yeah.
If you're able to that was just your going out to eat money. You can pay that off quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So be critical about building that budget, because if you can lower your living expenses from, I think right now you're at $1,600. If you can lower that to $1,200, that's an extra $500 every month that you can just start dumping into all of these debts. And damn, it's going to happen so quick for you.
Yeah.
I'm just excited to get you going. At the end of the day, what's important is that you're paying as much money as you are able to into your debts.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and most of my interest is coming from my student loan. That's where most of, so I really should be kind of trying to aggressively pay that off right now. Yeah, and that's it just, in the long terms of my life, in the grand scheme of my whole life, it really benefits me to get that paid off within the next year or 2 or 3, because that's just going to be, because I've just been thinking that the student loans is something I think about in the long term, where I'm going to be paying this off until I'm 40 is what I've been thinking about, which is another 9 years, so.
Let's cut that narrative right in half.
Right, yeah.
Because that is not very much debt. And if you tell yourself it's going to take 9 years to pay off, it'll take 9 years.
Yeah.
If you tell yourself you're going to pay it off in a year, you'll pay it off in a year. And I'm going to give you an example right now, because number 4 in your plan is, what are you willing to sacrifice for financial freedom? Because if you can lower your cost of living and or earn an additional $230 a week or $12,000 in a year, you can pay off all of your debt in the next 12 months.
Yeah.
It's $230 a week. It's about $1,000 a month. You're 12 grand away from paying off all your debt, Cole.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need 9 years for that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I just need somebody to put it in perspective for me, I could work a part-time job, and that would accomplish.
That's it, man.
That would be 1,000. You know what I mean? 10 hours, even out of minimum wage. You know what I mean? I would be able to come up with another $1,000 a month.
You can do it.
I think I can.
It's so attainable. $1,000.
Yeah.
You can pay off all this debt, including the interest you're going to accrue over the next year.
Number 5, Cole, you are ahead of the curve. You came in here today stating that you felt like you were not where you wanted to be.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to let you know that the average salary of 25 to 34 is $52,000. You're making above that as a solo entrepreneur, which is a dream for most people.
Yeah.
You're creating the life that you want, and you are on your way to financial freedom, which is so exciting. The average debt for millennials, 27 to 42, is $48,000.
Yeah, no, I believe that.
You have $10,000 in
right
debt.
now.
You are ahead of the curve. So stop comparing yourself to other people, because you are achieving great results, and I hope you feel empowered to continue to grow your business and build the life you deserve, because you are 1 year away from changing your life and becoming financially free.
Yeah, it feels pretty good to actually hear that, because it's just like a big wall, that I'm always just thinking about and stuff. And I guess, planning goes a long way. I mean, it goes a long way in my field of business. And I mean, it goes that way in every aspect of life, especially here.
Yeah. So Cole, I am so excited that you took your first step and you joined the money movement. So I am so excited to say that you are now a money mover. You've joined the movement of people like yourself who are on their way from a debt-filled life into the life they deserve. So I'm so excited for you. And if you are watching at home and you want to learn more, go to mymoneymovement.com, as well as subscribe to this channel, because every week we're discussing tips on how to get out of debt and into the life you deserve.